Well, wonderful. Well, it is just a couple of minutes past noon. So, Abby, if you're ready, we'll go ahead
Yeah,
and get started.
go ahead and get started.
Great. Well, welcome everyone. My name is Kristen Young, and I use she/her pronouns. And I serve as the executive director of LeaderShape, and I'm really excited to have you all with us here this afternoon. Um, we've taken a little break from these leadership educators series. We did them last year. It just as a way to bring leadership educators together and provide a space and platform for us to kind of reimagine how we deliver and engage in the meaningful leadership education work that we do, both with students and as professionals. And so now, as we're moving into more in-person experiences, we gathered together and thought we still needed this space to share resources and ideas. And what a great way to be able to do that. And so this is kicking off our week-long programming when we're talking about different topics. So thank you all for joining. I'm going to try to advance the slides. I apparently forgot how to do that. So we are all very familiar with Zoom after spending way too much time in there. We will, just as a reminder, we'll use the chat feature. So please go ahead and post your comments or questions there in the chat area. If you feel we're a little bit smaller of a group here today, and so if you do feel like you want to come on and ask a question, and please feel free to do that, Abby, if that's okay with you
Yeah,
as well. And so we'll kind of move forward from there. As we think about just in centering our time and our space together today, I just want to share with you all this land acknowledgement, and really ask us all to really think about the land that each of us is on today, and recognizing that it is the original homelands of Indigenous and tribal nations. And we acknowledge and recognize that painful history of genocide and forced removal from those territories, and really honor and respect the many diverse Indigenous people still connected to this land. And so we ask that you take a moment to acknowledge the Native and Indigenous peoples from the land that which you're joining us from, and just give thought to all that the generations that went before us to provide this time and space for us, and what a gift their contributions have been. So as we get started here as well, a little bit about LeaderShape. For those of you who may not be familiar with us, we are a not-for-profit organization that's committed to creating a more just, caring, and thriving world where all lead with integrity and practice a healthy disregard for the impossible. And bringing people together for conversations like the one we're having today is one of the ways in which we do that. All of our conversations and the work that we do is rooted in this definition of leadership. There are many definitions of leadership out there, as you all are well aware, and you probably use them in your own offices or in your daily work, but this is the one that that we've created and crafted here at LeaderShape. And we really believe that leadership involves living in a state of possibility, making a commitment to a vision, developing relationships to move that vision into action, and sustaining a high level of integrity. We think that effective leadership takes place in the context of a community and results in a more equitable society. And those concepts will really drive our conversation today. Joining me today is my friend and colleague, Abby Prince. Abby, I'll let you introduce yourself.
Yeah, thanks, Kristen. I really appreciate it. I've been working at LeaderShape for almost 8 years. My 8-year work date is coming up here pretty soon, which both seems a very long time and like it started last week. So I am the director of program quality and management at LeaderShape. So I get to work with campuses and organizations as they're planning to bring any of our programs to campus, but also in helping to develop curriculum. And as you see here today, helping to facilitate some of those programs too. So I'm really excited about the conversation series that we've been having, and I'm glad that it's returning at the start of this year too.
Awesome. Well, as we get started in this series, we have asked all of our guest facilitators to create some polling questions to help us get started. And so I'm going to launch a poll for us now, a couple of polls. So this should show up for you all. And just thinking about kind of time and what does managing our time mean for us? So you should see the first poll up there now. If you'd go ahead and respond. Great.
I like seeing these responses come in, Kristen.
It is. It's really fun. So when it comes to managing my time, it looks like 75% of us, there we go. Let me share that. Can you see it?
Yeah,
Feel like you're doing a fairly good job, but really with like some new ideas.
good.
And then there's a couple folks that manage it well at work, but not at home. I am with the folks there. I feel like at work I do a pretty good job, but at home it's a circus sometimes. So let me go to the next poll. When it comes to managing my time, I struggle with maintaining focus, limiting distractions, constantly shifting priorities, too much to do and not enough time, or pressure to accomplish more. Tell us your thoughts.
Ah, the pressure.
Why is there not a select all, Abby?
Oh, it's multiple choice.
Oh, it is multiple choice.
Yeah.
Oh, so you can
Yeah.
select more than one.
Yeah.
Okay. I didn't read that part. I do see that now. So
That's
you could
okay.
select as many or all of them if you'd like. Because I was like, I feel like all of those things apply to me.
Yeah. Yeah.
Awesome. Here you can see the maintaining focus and the constantly shifting priorities, right? Probably have always been with us, but definitely a sign of living 2 years into a pandemic.
Yes, exactly.
And our final polling question, when I feel overwhelmed with what I need to accomplish in a specific amount of time, you make a list of all that needs to get done and strategize, ask for a deadline extension, start delegating, asking for help, or panic and procrastinate.
I feel like that should be some kind of combined word of panastinate or something. Like procrastinating often feels like panic to me.
I think so. I think that's when I turned to TikTok for motivation and inspiration, or just a distraction.
Yeah.
There you go.
Those,
There are the
those
results.
list makers. I love to see that.
Just made one this morning. Awesome. Awesome. Well, thank you all for answering those polls and just giving a little bit of information. And Abby, I'm gonna turn it over to you and
Okay.
let us start the conversation.
That sounds good. Thank you, Kristen. I thank you for responding to those those polls too. I think it's just good to get a sense of like, where are we with our time management, and knowing that you all have some great strategies that you're working with and want some new places to go. I hope that that's what we can offer you today. But I've just been thinking so much about in these past 2 years, we've been seeing all these supply chain issues, right? I don't know if you saw the same like wave of trends during the pandemic of, we know everyone ran out of toilet paper first, and then we all ran out of hair dye because we couldn't go to our hair salons and we had to do it ourselves. And all the stores were wiped clean of hair dye. We ran out of ricotta cheese and cream cheese. That was quite a terrible supply chain issue. And then KN95 masks and building supplies, all those things ran out so quickly. And then most critically, I think our time ran out. We ran out of time. And mostly I think that started because maybe we thought we would have more of it. So in the shift to working from home, I know a lot of you have returned to your offices now, but at LeaderShape, we're still all working from home. And I think I thought I would have this like newly magical amount of free time since I wasn't commuting into an office. I was not packing a lunch. Kristen knows that I used to on Sunday afternoons, I would pick out my outfits for the week to help to make up some time in my mornings during the week. I was no longer doing that since, like a lot of you, I was just throwing on a sweatshirt or not getting as dressed up as I typically would for work anymore. And so I thought I would have all this extra time, but I think that so much in these last 2 years was unprecedented and unusual, but something that hasn't changed is the increase on the demand on our time. And so how do we get the most out of each day so that by the time we leave work at 5-ish or whatever, or whenever our work day ends, we feel good about what we've got during the day? What about strategies so that when Monday morning rolls around, we can say, oh, look what we got done during this weekend, and we feel better and refreshed to start our work week? How do we do those things so that we can be very productive during our days so that we can enjoy more of the time in the evenings of replenishing our energies and our time and feeling good about facing that next day? Because I think making best use of our time, it's about productivity. It's about how we can be most productive in the time that we have available to us. I've always been kind of fascinated with people who seem to get a lot done during their days. I can remember friends in high school that would talk about things that they got done, and they were also doing sports after school and also working a part-time job and also staying on the honor roll and also being involved in other extracurricular activities, and thinking, I'm not getting as much done as you are. And I think that that kind of equates to this question that we saw in our poll around the internal or external pressure to get a lot done. I was definitely comparing myself, but I think I tried to use that as a way to motivate myself to get more done rather than competing with people to get more done. I am a competitive person, as Kristen knows. And so there is sometimes part of a competition with myself to get more done each day, but and maybe some of you are feeling that pressure as well. I think as leadership educators, we know that you want to get a lot done too. We know the demands on your time and attention and abilities and resources and responsibilities are fairly great as well. And so what I was thinking about this, how this topic relates to leadership educators, and thinking that I know a lot of people that you work with or work close to or in proximity to, they're watching you to see how you do that as well, and learning from you about how do you protect your time? How do you set boundaries around your time? How do you use resources to help you get things done, rather than learning that lesson of like, oh, it's better if I just take on more responsibilities and in my day looking so haggard, like I'm crawling across the finish line because I have so many things to do. I think as a community, maybe we're past that point of valuing appearing busy, but maybe we are getting more into being productive with our time and being resourceful with our time instead. It's my hope in our time together that we can look at some of those things and get past them and move on to how we can be productive with our time rather than comparing ourselves to others and what they can get done in their time. So let's take a look at how we can make more time, find more time in our days, and make the best use of it. So first, I want us to kind of reassess. And I just want to say too that I'm not here to judge you or to shame you for how you're spending your time. I know Kristen made reference to procrastinating and scrolling through TikTok. We all have some version of that we do for looking at Pinterest or looking at Facebook or turning to social media to distract us and procrastinate. But I want to just ask you about how you're spending your time each day and where are you finding downtime. So maybe some of you are familiar with Gretchen Rubin and her time log. She is a researcher who started doing some work around, for her, it was personally finding more time to read. And she has said herself that, listen, if you have children under the age of 2, you're just not going to find more time to read right now. You're not going to find time for hobbies right now. But if you don't have children in that age group, then hopefully we can turn to this conversation and look to how can we find more time in our days. So what she found in doing this time log, and Kristen will share a link in the chat to this time log that Gretchen Rubin created, that's essentially from 5 a.m. to 11 p.m. There are 30-minute increments where you can track how you spent your time during the day. And maybe this seems like overkill. Maybe this seems like a lot more information that you wanted to do in tracking your time, but we are data lovers. We are researchers. We love to find the data that supports what we want to do. And so I think just in this exercise of tracking a time log for a week, to be able to find like, oh, I could get up 30 minutes earlier to spend time doing this one task, or I could spend my lunch hour on Wednesdays doing this other task. Like, how are you finding those downtime moments throughout your day? Maybe it's more practical to share. One of the things that I have found is after using this time log for a while, I bring a Kindle with me or a hardback book everywhere I go, because I also, like Gretchen Rubin, want to find more time to read. So if I'm in line at the pharmacy, or if I'm waiting for someone who's running late, I pull a book out and I get more reading done that way, because that's something that's really meaningful to me, and to kind of recharge my battery that way. Have any of you used this time log before? Is this familiar to you?
I am not familiar with it at all. So
Okay.
thank
Okay.
you.
Yeah. Yeah, I think that it can, and thanks to Courtney, I appreciate that too. I think that I hope it is something that you try out. I think it can be really intimidating to look at it, and like if you're not up at 5 a.m., just write sleep, or just adjust that time log to whenever you start and end your day. Don't feel intimidated to like, oh, I have to get up at 5 a.m. so I can track that I was sleeping at that time. Don't do that. Just mark the time that your waking hours. But I think that it can help you in discovering like, oh, I accidentally spent 30 minutes scrolling Pinterest. Like, maybe that's a good use of your time. And maybe that was something that you needed to do to like free your mind of some clutter and some things that were in your thought processes. And that's okay. Don't judge yourself for those times. And we'll talk about how to use that time later. I think one of the other things that I wanted to chat with you about too was, what's your ideal scenario for productivity? I was recently talking with my teenage nephews about that, they're back to school in person, but when they had so much virtual time, I was talking with them about what's your homework setup? What's your environment that is most ideal for you to be productive and to focus? And they were like, oh, I don't know. No one has ever asked this question before. And I thought, yeah, I'm the same way. I got to college and realized I didn't have study habits because I just did my homework in high school. I never really thought about what I needed around me to focus and be my best self in that concentration mode. But I started thinking about, do I need music? Do I need music with lyrics? Do I need instrumental music? Do I need noise canceling headphones? Like, what is that thing that helps you structure your time so that you can get the most out of your homework time or your concentration time or your work time? For me, I've learned that it has to be instrumental music kind of playing in the background, because if it's a song that I know, I will start typing the lyrics in an email, and that doesn't go over very well. Then I'm deleting a lot of emails and making not good use of my time to do so. But what is the best study mode for you? What is the best environment for you to study? I wondered too about how you structure that time. Are you thinking about, oh, I have 20 minutes right now, I'm going to use that to work through my inbox, or I have, 15 minutes before my next meeting starts and I'm going to return my voicemail messages? Like, how are you using that structured time that you have available to you? Because I think the other side of, if we're finding ways to make more time for ourselves, what are we doing with that time that we have just created for ourselves? I think it's not good if we all of a sudden find ourselves with 10 minutes and we don't know what to do with that time. And so we blow it, right? Like, how do you use that 10 minutes that you've just been given? And I often have this idea in my head of like, if I have 5 minutes available, I'm going to make a grocery list. Or if I have 15 minutes available, I'm going to set a timer and start on a project that maybe I've been procrastinating because I think I need more time to start the project. But if I have 15 minutes, that's enough time to kind of gather my thoughts on something so that I know what to do next when I have more time available to me. Another thing I wanted to mention is, what are the foods that fuel you to help you concentrate best? I know there was a study recently that showed that pickled foods really help us increase our concentration, which I really appreciated. I know Sanjay Gupta, if you watch his show on CNN, he also just wrote a book about this too, and thinking about, he kind of tracked his food and responses to food about how it was making him feel. And he said that when he had like pickles or like pickled onions on a sandwich or something, that he felt like his concentration was increased by that, which I think is great to know. What are those foods that help you feel more focused and concentrating so that you're making better use of your time as well? So thank you, Kristen, for sharing that link to how pickles can help you focus and make your brain in that focus mode of concentration too. So now that I've talked through a couple of these things of scenarios about what to think through and how to spend your time, or what is the best setup for you and focusing and concentrating and being very productive, I just want to ask you this question about making an assessment of the last time you can remember ending a day and thinking, oh my word, I got so much done today. I crossed so many things off my list of things to do. I feel so wildly productive that tomorrow's going to be a little easier. Maybe I'm being too optimistic in how productive your day was or what you were saying to yourself about it. But I want you to think about a time when you felt like you had accomplished a lot and felt really great about what you had done there. So just take a couple minutes to jot down, what was your environment there? What was happening around you? Some thought starters if you need them. I was thinking about, had you slept particularly well the night before? Had you done a workout in the morning? Had you maybe not had as much or more coffee than you normally do first thing? Did you have a snack throughout the day? Were you in a good work environment that helped you increase your focus and concentration? Were you working on a singular task rather than doing this dreaded multitasking where we're not giving enough of our attention to any one thing and just doing a bunch of things poorly? Was there maybe a chatty coworker who was unavailable to you that day, or a looming deadline perhaps that was making you focus a little bit more? So spend a couple minutes, if you will, focusing on and describing what that day was like for you. And while you do, I'm just going to play some nice reflective music in the background. Okay, friends. I hope you enjoyed that time sound in the background while you were reflecting. But would anyone want to share with us in the chat feature, maybe what are some things that you thought about as you reflected on a very productive day? What are some things that you're like, oh, I need to do that thing again. I need to set up my day again just like that, and remember that that is something that helped me to be productive. Does anyone want to share in the chat?
Well, people are typing a bit, made me think one of the most productive days I had recently didn't have many distractions. So, and it wasn't the full day. It was just like a 2-hour block of time that I wasn't distracted. And you mentioned, people coming in and out, or, doing multiple tasks at once. And it was an afternoon where I had blocked off more time than I actually ended up needing, but it took 2 hours to get something done. And it felt so rewarding because for 2 hours, I was solely focused on just that. And I actually kind of lost track of time while I was doing it. I didn't realize how much, how long it had been. And thankfully I got it accomplished. And it was just like that small part of my workday made the rest of the day feel so much better that I had accomplished something.
Yeah. That's so nice. Like blocking off time to do a specific task. That's such a good trick. I love that. Courtney, I see your comment there in the chat about if you're going to be focused over a long period, to make sure you schedule some breaks, like to get up and walk around and kind of clear your head a little bit. I really love that idea. Laura, I love your excitement for the next thing too, like being ready for what happens next, and then closing out those tasks on a Friday. I love that. That's really good. I know for me, on the, like, as Friday afternoons are approaching and I'm getting ready to log off, like powering down my keyboard and my trackpad and like closing my laptop just feels like I want to feel good about doing those tasks that kind of tie up the work week. Nathan, I see your comment too about having something to look forward to afterwards, I think, right? The writing a draft of a paper and then spending some time with friends. And then, yeah, you can put that task out of your head because you've done all that work on it to be able to kind of clear it out and know that you can set it aside. I think that's really great. Thanks for sharing that. Anyone else have thoughts about their most productive self? Yeah, Josh, working with staff to coordinate. Yeah, playing a little bit of catch up. That's kind of nice to, whenever you can look ahead at your work week and say, oh, Wednesday afternoon is going to be a bear. So what are some things that I can get done leading up to that time so that I feel good about not looking at my email on Wednesday afternoon at all while we have this big staff meeting or something. I think that's a great way to look ahead. All those lists, Laura. Yeah, I always feel, Laura, I'm totally with you on that. I think that I am lying to myself if I say, oh, I'll remember to do that. I don't need to write that down. That is a lie. So just write the darn thing down so that you can check it off your list later. That's a great idea.
It's so funny because I almost had that conversation with myself this morning. I make a list every, like the start of every day. And I was like, you know what, maybe today I won't make a list and I'll just remember what I need to do. And like 30 minutes in, I was like, I have no idea what I'm supposed to do. Like, I was like, no, this is not me. I cannot do that.
It's just not going to happen. I love that. I think my partner might be a little annoyed by this, probably not, but I always like Sunday afternoons, I'm planning out all our meals for the week because I don't want to get to 6 o'clock on Tuesday and think, what were we going to make? And do I need something from the store? Like I have to just plan that out at the start of the week so I don't have to ask those meal questions during the week. Any other tips of things that you're doing to help be productive during the day? I really appreciate these comments. Awesome. Well, thank you for sharing that.
But one of the things that makes me that I think about, and I think it goes to what Nathan was saying about celebrating, is sometimes if I have something that I'm not looking forward to doing, I will sandwich it in between two things that I am looking forward to. So like I do the thing that motivates me first, and then comes the thing I wasn't looking forward to, and then I'm like rewarded when I finish that to be able to do the final thing, right? Like I have something to look forward to. So having that a different type of reward, I think, but similar to what Nathan was sharing, like I know good things are ahead if I just trudge through whatever this is, whether it's writing a report or making a phone call or whatever it might be.
Yeah, I think that's great. I think sometimes too, I'm coupling that task with something else so that I know that I have to do this thing because this thing comes along with it, if that makes sense. So like when I'm planning my day out, for example, I meet Kristen sometimes at the gym and we do a cycling class together. And I know that I have to show up to that because while I'm there, I'm going to hand that task over to Kristen that I've been working on, a physical thing that she needs. And it's a good way for me to couple those tasks together to make sure that I do both of them, but also as kind of a handoff, like this task is completed and now I can hand this off to you. Yeah.
So you're only going to cycling so that you can give me work that I need to do. That's what I hear. I'm just kidding.
Yes, exactly. That's exactly why I'm doing it. Awesome. Well, thank you for doing that assessment. I hope that is helpful and that you've heard some ways from other people about how they're being productive and setting up their day, but then also for you to be able to reflect on, oh yeah, I am my best self and being productive when I do these things too. So let's remember those things. The next thing I want to talk about, so we've just done a reassessment here, but I also want you to be realistic. So I think that oftentimes when I feel frustrated with what I didn't get done, it's because I have tried to put 10 pounds of tasks into a 5-pound day. Like I've just overwhelmed my schedule with things and set myself up for failure with what I was going to get done. I think oftentimes in conversations with Kristen at the start of the day, I'm saying like, oh, I'm going to email all these people. I'm going to finish this document. I'm going to cut up all these tasks that we need for Catalyst, and I'm going to clear out my inbox. And then at the end of the day, I think, oh, I got 3 of those big things done. I really set myself up for failure and thinking that I was going to check all those things off my list of things to do. And instead, I'm rolling a lot of them over into the next day. So how do we set those realistic goals by what we can finish this hour, by what we can finish this workday, by what we can finish by Friday or the weekend or whatever that looks like? Because you don't want to get frustrated with what you didn't get done in the day. And then that kind of sets you up for failure even the next day. You're just rolling those tasks over from day to day to day. Kristen had just shared with me recently this article about revenge bedtime procrastinating. And I wonder if this is familiar to you all, this sense of like, I didn't have any time for myself to do things that I wanted to do today. And so now instead of going to bed at a reasonable time so that I can be my best self tomorrow, I'm going to start kind of revenge scrolling through Facebook or revenge procrastinating to do other things that keep me from getting good sleep so that I can feel like I got something out of my own day that felt really personal. Both of those things are bad. Preventing yourself from getting a good night's sleep is not good, but then also feeling like you were punished during the day for not getting to do things on your own. And now you have to wait until right before bed to do that. You're just clobbering yourself into not getting good sleep that night, which makes it worse the next day as well. So don't do that. Don't do those things. Make sure that you're taking, like Courtney was sharing with us, making sure that you're taking breaks throughout the day. And maybe that is setting a 5-minute timer to look at TikTok or promising yourself you're only going to look at social media for a couple minutes before you get back to the task at hand, so that at the end of the day, you don't feel like you have to revenge procrastinate and limit your bedtime a little bit too. I'm glad that this is resonating with people. I think that even the topic of that, just reading the title of that article, I'm like, oh, this feels all too familiar. And I'm glad that other people do it. I'm not doing it on my own, but I don't want any of us to do it. So let's agree to not do that anymore. And yeah, just being realistic about the sleep that we need so that we can feel our best selves the next day as well. So we've reassessed, we've been realistic, and now we can readjust. So in thinking about being realistic about what are we not getting done or what are we avoiding doing? And then asking ourselves, are we sure that that is something that has to get done? Are we sure that we're the person that needs to do it? Or do we just feel like that's some kind of like honorable badge that we're wearing, that we're the ones that are struggling through this task by ourselves? So being realistic about that, what we can get done, and are we the right person to do it? I've mentioned this a couple times throughout our time together, but setting a 5-minute timer works so well for me in a lot of ways. One is, if there's a project that feels overwhelming to me and I don't know where to get started, I set a 5-minute timer for myself to say, what can I get done in 5 minutes with this project? Can I start like setting up the tasks that need to be done or thinking through what the next steps are? And then if I'm doing well, if I'm off and running within those 5 minutes, I set a 30-minute timer and just keep going with that process. I also from time to time set a procrastination 5-minute timer. So if there's a task I don't want to do, I ask myself, do I want to do this now or in 5 minutes? And I often answer in 5 minutes. So I set a timer for 5 minutes and I do the thing that I wanted to do for that 5 minutes. Sometimes it's turning over laundry or reading a little bit or stretching, getting up and walking around, and then getting back to the task at hand. And I don't know why, I always just feel better getting back to that task eventually. So maybe that is a tip that you can use as well. There's a picture here of the Pomodoro timer. I don't know if this is familiar to any of you, but I use the Focus Keeper app to do this, but it sets a timer for you. So much like what Courtney again was talking about here, it sets a 25-minute timer for you. It has a very satisfying clicking sound as it ticks down that time. And then there's a 5-minute break timer that happens after that. That runs in cycles. And once you've completed, I think it's 4 cycles, then you get a 25-minute break. You get a longer break to clear your head or eat some lunch or take a walk outside or sort through mail or whatever all those looming tasks are that you have. Tanya, I see your comment there about the Pomodoro timer. And I think Tanya has shared with me and being a little bit competitive with like, how many cycles can I complete in a day of the Pomodoro timer of the things that I can get done? And I think that that's sometimes a good goal to have too, of how many cycles of that timer can you go through in a day and how many things can you get done in that time? Does anyone else use the Pomodoro timer or something like that? Is that familiar to you? Yeah, I hope that that is a good tool for you to try out. Or just to check out to see if that is something that could be helpful for you, and setting focus time and helping you stay focused for those shorter amounts of time, and then take a break and clear your head for that short amount of time too. Oh, Study With Me YouTube videos. I've never heard of those, Nathan. So they're 50 minutes on and then 10 minutes off, or some kind of break from that. I like this. That's really good. Yeah, Joshua, I hope that helps in thinking about using that timer. I don't know what it is about that timer as it clicks down. It's a very satisfying sound to click down your 25 minutes, but I think it's really helpful and I hope it can help you too. One thing I was going to ask you all too is in thinking about, what are you doing when you're procrastinating? So if you have a task you have to get done, it's looming over your head, it's a crunchy little deadline that's facing you, what are the things you're doing to procrastinate? And the reason I ask this is because a lot of times those are the hobbies that put us into a flow state of kind of clearing out the stress of our minds, so that when we get back to focusing, our brains are a little happier in doing so. So I would ask you what those things are that you do when you're procrastinating, and are you making more time to do them throughout your week? Because those things can help us to be more productive when we return our attention to the work that's at hand. Does anyone want to share about, do you want to confess maybe what you do when you're procrastinating? Thanks, Tanya.
I always think when and as people are kind of talking, one of the things that I always do is I always look up recipes when I'm procrastinating, because I'm trying to think of like, what can I cook next? What will I be eating? A lot of things focus around what could I eat next, right? Like what could we do for my family in terms of food? And I love to cook. So I think that it's oftentimes and then I find sometimes I'm much more creative when I find really great recipes.
Yeah. Yeah, that's good. That's good. Joshua, yeah, finding everything to do, but not what you need to get done. Yes, that procrastination dip is going to hurt us all in the end. But I think that there are ways that we can use that procrastination to our benefit when we're finding what those great tasks are and how we're making best use of that procrastination, so that when we return to the work at hand, when we return to those tasks that have those deadlines, we feel more focused and refreshed on them. Tanya is searching Pinterest for sewing patterns and recipes. I think that's a great way to use your procrastination time. I like that. The Study With Me videos. Thanks for sharing that link, Nathan. I really appreciate that. It's like having study buddies nearby, except they're virtual. Is that basically? And then they set timers for them. Okay. Laura, I see your comment here about adding tasks to your to-do list that weren't originally there and then crossing them off. Listen, if that's a small thing that you can do to feel better about your productivity, I say keep doing it, because that is a nice little like good vibes, good chemistry ding on your brain to say like, oh, look what I did. I did this thing. I got this thing done, and I can do more things, which I think is really good. I don't know if some of you do this, but I always start my day by making the bed, because I feel like it takes me 2 minutes. I know, because I've timed it. And it's a way that I can show myself like, I did a small thing this morning to start the day off. I will do lots more things throughout the day to be productive and make good use of that time. But it's kind of like sets me on that path, which I really appreciate. Nathan, yeah, that Study Like Me, it's like having a coworker that's virtual. I think that, working from home, there's not a lot of like other people working energy around you. And so having someone that it appears that they're studying or working next to you, I think that's a great way to get the other person working energy from to keep yourself going. I like that. Yeah, Tanya, bed making and starting on your water goals helps you to feel productive to start the day. I like that too. Thank you for that.
Sometimes I'll even go back and make my bed if I'm not a morning bed maker, but if I'm having a really unproductive day, I'll be like, I'm gonna go make the bed. Like, and so then like I can just do it whenever, right? It doesn't have to be right in the beginning of my day, but even in the middle of the day where I'm like, I need to get something done. Oh, that same motivation. If anybody is like me, not really a morning person, and I could care less about what my bed looks like in the morning, that I get the same motivation from making it at 1:30 in the afternoon.
Yeah. I love that feeling. That's good. So I have some guiding questions for you. Oh, Joshua, I see your comment too about starting a load of laundry. That's a great way to start the day, because then you have probably folded laundry that's put away before you go to sleep at night, which is really nice. I always feel like that is my very sticky task, that I want to have it all done before I go to bed on Sunday night, all the laundry. And I rarely do, but I always try to. That's always the goal. So some guiding questions for us here. How are you setting yourself up for success with your time? So some of these tasks and tips and tools that we've talked about here, how many of those things are you using? How do you best enjoy your downtime? And are you making time for those activities? This like scrolling through Pinterest and finding recipes and getting up and taking a walk. Are you making time to do those things that help you be at your best? And then how are you role modeling and how you spend your time and how you protect your time and set boundaries around your time, knowing that people are watching you to do that? One question I would like to ask you to set up if you could respond in the chat feature here is, what are some time strategies that you're utilizing? I think we've talked about a lot of those throughout our time together here so far. A bonus question, if you had 15 minutes of time right now to do whatever you wanted, how would you spend that time? So maybe respond to these two questions here. And there aren't many of you, and I feel like maybe that puts more pressure on you to respond, but I love this idea of sharing tips that maybe it seems so obvious to you, but other people haven't tried them yet. I think if I had 15 minutes right now, I would just go stand in the sun, because even though it's really cold out and there's a lot of snow on the ground, the sun is shining and I just want to feel it on my face for a little bit. So that's what I would do with my 15 minutes. Anyone else want to share with what they would do with 15 minutes? Start a batch of cookies. Tanya, I'll be right there.
That sounds delicious.
That sounds great.
I would sort out this pile that I've been moving around my office all morning that just had 15 more minutes, because I would like to get rid of it.
Yeah, I can appreciate that. Courtney would time block your Google Calendar. I like that idea, putting workouts and walks and like 15 minutes to text your friends back that you haven't got to over the weekend or something even. I feel like it's a good use of 15 times. Yeah. Get your clothes set out for the next day, prep your lunch for the next day. That's a great way to use 15 minutes. I love that. Okay. Well, friends, I have 2 gifts for you, which I'm super excited about. Oh, Courtney also said, sorry. Go for a walk outside. How people are spending their time. That's great. Breaks down how long an employee took to respond to emails and a response time. Hopefully that provides some positive feedback too, and thinking about like, maybe it's a goal to improve on, but maybe it's, hopefully it's not like a pressure kind of thing for folks, but it's good that they're tracking those things. I think that's good. All right, well, my gifts to you. One, on the next slide, I did put together a time playlist. So if you scan that QR code there, it'll pull up a Amazon Music playlist for you. Maybe you could, they're all songs with lyrics, so I won't be listening to them while I work, but I will be listening to them otherwise. Maybe it's a good way to encourage you to think about your time a little bit. The other thing that I have for you is, unless anyone has questions, I'm going to give you back at least 10 minutes of your day here. So we'll wrap up a little bit early, and you can use 10 minutes perhaps to use to start those cookies, or to go for a walk, or to respond to some emails that you weren't sure you could get to before the end of the day, and just kind of power through those 10 minutes to be productive in a way that you didn't know you had time for.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much, Abby. What a great conversation, and what a way to start the week too, as you think about, how do we use our time? Where do we have time? And I'm still going back to what you talked about at the very beginning about tracking our time and recognizing like there are pockets within our days in which we have space, but we're just finding those and how do we better utilize them. So thank you for that.
Yeah.
Wonderful. Well, wouldn't be a LeaderShape program if I didn't just happen to mention it's this little commercial time. As you are thinking about your leadership education and the programs that you're providing for students and staff, if there's any way that LeaderShape can help and partner with you in doing that work, we would love to do that. And you can get information there at our website. And then just a little bit more, if you want to know a little bit more about LeaderShape and about our mission and vision, it is there for you to learn. And if you do share that vision and mission that we have of creating that world where all lead with integrity, and you are able, we do invite you to make a contribution if that's something that you're interested in doing, and you can do so by just following that link. Your resources really do go directly to helping students participate in our programs by providing them scholarships so that they can engage in some meaningful dialogue and begin to create change in the communities that they're a part of. So thank you for all that you've done, for being with us today. And if you have questions or want to stay around, Abby and I will stick out here for a couple more minutes. Otherwise, please go enjoy your extra few minutes in your day and being a little bit more productive.
Of course. Thanks, everyone.